Hey folks, thank you so much for joining Live Impact News this Friday evening. I'm Jeb Goldman. Sitting in right now as Colin Mayfield makes his way back from the studio. We'll kick you off right now. There is a big game tomorrow night between Charlotte FC and the Philadelphia Union. First place Philadelphia Union, might I add. And who better to talk about such a big game than Callum Williams with the MLS. Callum, how's it going?
Thanks for having me. How are you?
We're good. You know, it's been an interesting season for us here in Charlotte. We were top of the East at one point. That was an exciting time in the city. Now, no longer. Philadelphia and Ty Baribo own that spot. Charlotte, wishy-washy, coming off a big win against Toronto. What did they do right, and how can they carry that momentum into tomorrow's match?
Look, I think for Charlotte, the last two victories were so important. Dean Smith said to me yesterday that, look, the team were in a bit of a funk. They weren't clicking. They had found an element of inconsistency, which is obviously what they didn't want. Patrick Agyemang was showing flashes in front of goal, but again, they were inconsistent. And a lot was on the shoulders of Pep Biel, who I think Dean Smith is relying on once again, considering how Philadelphia Union play with a high press. To my understanding, I think the game plan will be to play in between the lines of that press. So Pep Biel will be of considerable importance tomorrow for sure. But I think the last two victories from the last three games for Charlotte were of major importance to get them back to at least the conversation of being involved in the playoffs. Because you're right, at one stage they were flying. That has not been the case over the course of the last couple of weeks. And Dean Smith even said to me yesterday, Jeb, that he's not happy. In fact, he hates the fact they've got 8 defeats on the season already.
Yeah, and I think I speak for most of the folks here in the Queen City when we feel the same way. A big question going into tomorrow's match that it's on my mind, I think it's on the coaches as well, is who is starting between the sticks. You have the reigning goalkeeper of the year, Christian Kalina, having kind of a shaky season. Last match, we saw David Bingham, who I'm a personal fan of, growing up watching the San Jose Earthquakes. This guy has been an MLS staple for almost a decade now, if not longer. You know, have you heard any kind of indication or any rumblings about who will get the nod tomorrow?
No, I haven't. Dean Smith actually said to us yesterday as well that he was going to sleep on the decision and make a call on match day. So not entirely sure, but it's strange, isn't it? Because you're right, Christian Kalina has been one of the most consistent goalkeepers in Major League Soccer since his arrival. Came over with a really good footballing resume, having played at a really good level in European football. And at times looked like he was unbeatable, looked like he was ready to perhaps make a step back to European football. He was such an asset for Charlotte over the course of their development into the team they've become now. But honestly, I think, to my understanding, one of the issues for Christian Kalina, and I can attest to being a parent of 2 young children, is that he has 2 young children. And for those that don't have children, I can say, like every parent, you don't sleep. And it's very, very challenging. It's amazing, but it's very challenging at times. And I think that may very well be the case. And the issue with Christian Kalina is that he's just not sleeping enough. He's shown that he's not as sharp as he regularly is. The last time I was in Charlotte, Jeb, I did the home game against Chicago Fire, that 4-1 defeat. Mm-hmm. And I got to admit, I was really surprised. I think Chicago were good, but that day Charlotte made them look like Barcelona. And there were some really, I thought, efforts that you would describe as half chances. The first goal Chicago scored from Jonathan Bamba, I thought was a very savable shot. Mm-hmm. In the end, it's certainly a shot that Christian Kalina, in my opinion, would regularly say. He didn't on that occasion. In fact, it was almost borderline embarrassing, giving the goal away like he did. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all, Jeb, if he's given another rest. He's not going to get any sleep anytime soon. No. So we'll wait and see. And as you mentioned, David Bingham has been in the league for a long time. Over 300 appearances in Major League Soccer for San Jose, LA Galaxy, Portland Timbers as well. You know, he's been towards the top end of the Western Conference for some time. And so he's the perfect goalkeeper to have come in and replace somebody like Kalina.
Absolutely, and I think you'll be one of the first to agree that having a competition in net will make any team better. If you look at all of the best clubs, that seems to be a pretty recurring theme. Let's go a little forward in the line. Let's go to the defense. They're going against. I'm not sure. Is Ty Berevo back? Is he with Philadelphia?
No, to my understanding, obviously he got an injury a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if he's going to be available. But obviously, if he isn't, that is of a major benefit to Charlotte FC because,
absolutely,
let me tell you, Jeb, I've done Philadelphia Union quite a lot this year, and he's one of these centre forwards that he just needs half a chance. Even when Philadelphia aren't playing well, he always finds an opportunity. And I know he's not scored in the last 3, but prior to that, I think it was 6 goals in 4 games. He's one of these predatorial type centre forwards who just seems to find himself in the right place at the right time. That's not through chance. That's instinct,
Right. You think this is kind of a crazy comparison, but I think Dimitar Berbatov, right? A guy who just knows where the ball is, take the shot. I think about that game against Inter Miami. I mean, he didn't need much to get going then. So that'd be great. I hope he's all right. Hope everything's all right. But we obviously here in Charlotte, we want to make sure that we don't want to necessarily play the potential MVP of the league if we don't have to. Looking at our defense, what do you think right now? We've seen a number of different combinations. Andrew Privet is great. Tim Ream is great. Malanda is great. They don't. The Dean has said he doesn't want. It doesn't really seem like 3 at the back is going to be his style. So, what do you think is the best combination for Charlotte's backline right now? Because it seems like they're still trying to figure it out.
I think the 4 that they've gone with in recent weeks, whether it's Scardina or not at right back, I think Doumbia in at left back has got a really good footballing resume. Has played in the Champions League, has played at a very high level in France and Belgium. And the 2 centre halves, I think, we saw it, didn't we, in year 1? They were arguably the best central defensive duo in Major League Soccer. And what I will say about those 2, particularly Adilson Malanda, Jeb, I think Charlotte FC fans should enjoy them whilst they have them.
I was going to say, how long do we have with him?
Yeah, exactly. I was over in Paris a couple of months ago working and speaking to people around French football. And the one thing they continuously said to me was how surprised they were that Adilson Malanda sort of slipped through the cracks in French football. And I think there's going to be a lot of suitors over the course of the next 6 months. I know there's already been people having a look, teams across a couple of different leagues in Europe. But it wouldn't surprise me if an offer came in from Ligue 1, from France, over the course of the next 6 months at some point. But look, the back 4, going back to your question, the back 4, I think, is probably best suited to the way that Charlotte want to play. But one of the things that I was thinking about actually yesterday, Jeb, was I think Ashley Westwood is tremendous. I'm an Aston Villa fan. I watched Ashley Westwood. I've commentated on Ashley Westwood in the Premier League in the past.
Right.
Very astute central midfielder. Even at the age of 35 now, he's very, very good. Keeps himself in great shape. Can see a pass as good as anybody in Major League Soccer. But I just wonder now if it's time to perhaps start dropping somebody a little deeper alongside him. Is it time to have somebody, maybe it's a Djibril Gianni type, who can go box to box? Maybe you ask a little bit more of Brandt Bronico or something. I know Brandt Bronico is more, his preference is to press forward, and I understand that. But when you have somebody as good as Pep Biel pulling the strings in the attacking part of the field, I wonder, is it at some point, particularly on the road away at Philadelphia Union and places of the ilk, I wonder, is it worth having somebody alongside Ashley Westwood and try a double pivot of some sort and have the ground covered that at the age of 35, without being disrespectful, Ashley Westwood just can't cover anymore, and allow him to concentrate on being the direct passer of the ball, allow him to help them in transition, but have somebody tidying up in the little pockets underneath him, have somebody covering ground and stopping passes coming into the opposing number 10. I just wonder if it's time to think a little bit more like that. I know that's happened on 1 or 2 occasions with Charlotte, but I wonder now, especially on the road away at someone like Philly, as I mentioned, is it worth just having that sort of mindset now and being okay with conceding a little bit more possession and what have you? So we'll wait and see, because in my opinion, I just don't think the back line of Charlotte have had enough protection this season.
And I think many agree with you. Especially, they brought in Eric Williamson, who's a vet, United States national in his day, I think a lot of us are also looking to see a little bit more cohesion between the back line and the midfield. Speaking of the United States national team, this is a very interesting time in the MLS. We run into it every year, kind of that summer international. And a lot of people, whether you're pro the MLS season, against it, I know there's been a lot of debate over switching to a more traditional European season. Right now, we still have the regular MLS season, and that means for the Gold Cup, huge absences over these next few. Obviously, United States men's national team subject of a world of controversy right now. We may get into that, but something I want to ask you about is obviously Charlotte FC. We're hurt. Philly also hurt by some of these absences. Which team do you think is more impacted by the United States men's national team call-ups?
Oh, that's a great question. Would be the more hurt. I think right now, given where the goals are coming from a Charlotte point of view, I would suspect that Charlotte are probably more affected by the Gold Cup. But I think Philadelphia Union have had more to deal with in terms of absentees, not just through the Gold Cup, but through injuries and suspensions and what have you as well. If that is the case and Tyber Rebo isn't available tomorrow, which to my understanding, I don't think he is. I don't know that for sure, but if he's not available, then that's a big one to lose as well, alongside all the Gold Cup absentees as well. To lose a goalkeeper like Andre Blake is massive in Major League Soccer. He's been the epitome of consistency. But, look, Tim Ream has obviously been a staple since he's come into Charlotte, and Patrick Ashiman gives you so much on the ball and off the ball, but certainly on the ball, and he allows the team to go direct. And I'm interested to see who replaces him tomorrow, actually, Jed, because my assumption would be, and I could be wrong here, maybe you can tell me, but my assumption would be Toklamati.
That's right.
Who I know was impressed in training. Dean Smith described him as a bit of an unknown quantity, which I thought was an interesting line because obviously he comes in with a wealth of experience, maybe a little strong, but he had a good footballing resume coming in, playing in the top flight in Israel, and he's seemingly now found his way in Major League Soccer, but he's still only 20 years old. He's got a lot of learning to do. But Dean Smith seems to like that about him, is that not too many people know much about him outside of the Charlotte market. And so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But look, no doubt, I don't think Patrick Ashiman is a goal scorer that's going to score 15 or 20 goals a year. That doesn't mean he doesn't give you something that Charlotte will definitely be lacking tomorrow.
Absolutely. That brings me to my next question. We're coming up on the summer transfer window for the MLS. Obviously, in Europe, we've seen a host of absolutely phenomenal moves. It's been kind of the firecracker transfer window we were expecting so early on. A question I have for you is a little niche, but as a Quakes fan growing up, I'm no stranger to strange secondary strikers. We had Chad Barrett for a while. We had Aaron Gordon. I'm pulling some. They have Preston Judd now, who I think fits in that exact niche quality of guys who could probably get 5 goals a season, put a ball up in the air. Charlotte FC hasn't really had that. Do you think that's some? And obviously, we would love a new DP number 9. I think Dean and everyone agrees Ajamong is the guy right now. But in lieu of that, do you think they go out? What moves do you think the club is going to look for once that window finally does open?
Before I do, here's another Quakes name to throw at you, Stephen Lenhart.
Stephen Lenhart. That man could get into a tussle.
MLS legend right there. Look, I think from a Charlotte perspective, I think they know they have to add. But to my understanding, with how the salary cap is working, I think, I could be wrong here, but I think they have to move people out before they can move people in. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy.
No.
I think, as you say, Adjiman is the man for now. But as you said, I think a designated player centre forward, a proven goal scorer would be somebody that I think everybody would like. But the good thing about having somebody like Dean Smith is that he's got a wealth of experience. He has tons of contacts across world football, but particularly across the English Premier League and Championship. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were able to move 1 or 2 players that are in the rotation, players that you would call squad players, to make a bit of room on the cap. And he goes and he finds somebody who is, maybe just trying to get into a championship team. They can't quite get into the championship team, wherever that is, and offers that second striker and offers that different approach if it's needed. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. I would assume that would get done in this summer window, because Dean Smith knows that they can't continue to go on and rely on the people they have relied on all season to score the goals, because you simply need a centre forward to be at centre stage at some point of the campaign. And as much as everybody relies at times on Patrick Agyemang to be able to play direct, I think at times it's a little bit predictable. And I think Dean Smith and Charlotte FC would love a different option and a different way of playing through a centre forward.
I've heard his old buddy Jimmy Vardy is looking for a club, so let's manifest that maybe that could happen. And just really quickly here, on the topic of quick, a big criticism for Charlotte FC has been the pace moving forward. It's improving. It is improving, but I think a lot of people have looked at Wilfried Zaha, and he hasn't had the legs that maybe they saw when he was at Palace those years ago. It's been a while. Do you think that is a concern? Obviously, we're going against some monster fullbacks. Kai Wagner might be the best left back in the MLS, maybe MLS history, to be honest. Is that something? Because it's going to have to go through the wings, because Toklamati is not a direct option. What does that look like for the team tomorrow, do you think?
Yeah, you might even have to go shorter tomorrow as well. And like I said, before, the preference for anybody playing against Philadelphia is to go direct and play over the press. But I think actually tomorrow you may very well have to go and be a little braver and play through the lines, which I think is a very, very dangerous game to play if he's going to play through the back and try and connect through the centre with Westwoods, try and find the feet of Biel in between the lines maybe. I agree. I think you've probably got to go into the wide areas. So once again, a lot of eyeballs, as they should be, will focus on Wilfried Zaha with the resume that he has. But honestly, Jeb, with Zaha, it's interesting because you know better than me. You see him a lot more than I do. But I had heard for years about there being an issue with him off the field when he was playing in London with Crystal Palace. I had heard that he likes to be at home. I don't know. I'm assuming he's settled in well at Charlotte. I don't know. There was a story or two about him when he was playing in France. I have a good friend of mine who covers Lyon. Who obviously Zaha was on loan at for a short time, and he said that his attitude wasn't great because he couldn't get a game. There's a youngster, 20 years of age now, called Yannick Fofana, who is a name for people to hold on to and watch out for over the course of the next 2 years or so. And I don't know. I think you want your designated players to stand tall. You want your designated players to deliver in big moments, even when it's going really tough as well. You need your stars to deliver, and certainly somebody with his experience as well. You would rely on someone like him to play his part, and I don't know if that's been the case enough this year for Charlotte. And so again, it's a big game for him. It's a really big game. I don't know who will be playing at right back for Philadelphia. It may be Frankie Westfield, who's been wonderful, 19 years of age. It may be Olivier Baizo, tough tackling Cameroonian maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's somebody else. But I think Wilfried Zaha said just the other day, didn't he, that MLS has been a lot more physical, much better than he thought it was. We've heard that before, haven't we? We've heard that before.
I was going to say, it sounds like a broken record.
Come over here. It's not that league anymore. And so I think Wilfried Zaha is the latest example of a big European name coming over here and actually now having this adaptation period where he realises actually this is a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. And he's now making that transition into understanding what it takes to be a success in Major League Soccer.
Absolutely, some growing pains. And because you brought it up, I want to pick just ask really quickly. You brought up Lyon. There's been some rumors that we might have another United States men's national player to root for. Tanner Tessman played for a little while. Do you believe Matt Turner may be making the jump from the aforementioned Crystal? Is that something we could maybe see? Has your friend said anything to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I don't know if it's done, but I think it's close. And he's he just needs to play, doesn't he? He needs to play prior to the World Cup. And
he's got a year.
Ed, look, this is the year he has to play, and obviously there's an opportunity with Lyon at the moment where their goalkeeper is going to move on. To my understanding, might happen over the weekend.
Yes.
So there's a chance. Lyon are a massive football club. They're huge. Expectations are as high as they come in France. Maybe just underneath Paris Saint-Germain, but look, I mean, they're a massive club, and I think Matt Turner would be a fool to turn down and move there. It doesn't matter that you're leaving the Premier League. You're going to go and play European football. They got into the Conference League. Go and play. You need sharpness, and you're going to be playing at a very, very high level. I hope his agent is pushing him, prodding him, trying to understand that this is a good move and make it happen.
Awesome. Callum Williams with the MLS. Thank you so much for joining us. I promise we are the only show you'll join all week where you bring up Steven Lenhart's name. How fun is that? Thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it. Hopefully the Crown can get a win tomorrow.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
Well, honestly, oh, can you hear my mic there, my friend?
Yep, we got you.
You got me? All right. So I wanted to just listen. I know that you are a hardcore MLS fan, so it's nice to hear you talk about names that a lot of folks don't necessarily hear about. So that's cool. You had fun?
Yeah. And as you guys know, I will talk about Charlotte FC all the livelong day, something I really, really enjoy. I mean, I grew up watching MLS, playing with the guys since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are too many leagues in the United States where you can see the actual growth. Like when you grow up watching NFL or NBA, and I like all those too. You guys have seen me on our NFL coverage, NBA coverage. I like all that as well.
Right.
But those leagues have been that for my entire life.
Okay.
When I was watching the San Jose Earthquakes growing up, we were going to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 person stadiums and watching them, and it literally looked like you're watching a college game, like barely. So to go to Charlotte FC at the bank, 60,000 people singing chants, feeling like a European team.
Yeah.
It is a really neat experience. So thank you so much to Callum for coming on and breaking down. It's going to be a great game tomorrow. Charlotte could have a really neat opportunity to beat the number 1 seed. So for the Crown, should be a good one.
I mean, they're going to have to put in a plus game.
They will.
For that to happen.
Absolutely.
They got to put it together on all sides of the soccer ball. All right, we do know that around 6 o'clock, 6:30 actually, Steven Stanko, who is a South Carolina man who was put on death row twice for separate murders, was put to death earlier this evening by lethal injection. It's the state's 6th execution in 9 months. He was executed for shooting a friend and then cleaning out his bank account in Horry County in 2005. There was a press conference after Stanko was pronounced dead at 6:34 p.m. Tonight. So we'll get to this right now.
Are we ready? Everybody ready? Okay. Hi, my name is Christy Shane, Chrystyshain. I'm the Director of Communications for the South Carolina Department of Corrections. The capital punishment sentence of Stephen Christopher Stanko was carried out tonight pursuant to the order of the South Carolina Supreme Court and in accordance with state law. The execution was performed by lethal injection and began at 6:06 p.m. A second dose of pentobarbital was administered at 6:20 p.m., and he was pronounced dead by a physician at 6:34 p.m. Stanko, 57, was serving 2 death sentences for crimes committed on April 8, 2005, in Horry and Georgetown counties. Tonight's execution was for the shooting, death, and robbery of Henry Lee Turner, 74, of Conway. Stanko also was sentenced to death for the strangulation death of Laura Ling of Merle's Inlet.
Yeah, sorry, folks. That audio really does not sound great, so we don't want to continue to hammer that and have people turn us off. So we want more people to watch WCNC Plus, download, stream, tell your friends and family. But we do know that Juneteenth is next week. Still a holiday that many are celebrating and already starting to celebrate. Actually, in Gastonia, they're making this a community celebration, Ebony Fest. It'll happen this weekend. So we actually had an interview to talk about how cool this cultural event has become and really what it means for the area and for Juneteenth.
starting off, just give us a little bit of background of just why you brought Ebony Fest to the city of Gastonia. I saw a little bit of the meeting video, but just kind of give us some context.
Well, okay, so in 2019, I was part of the Highland Festival Planning Committee. Highland Festival at that time had been in Gastonia for 30 years, and it's a primarily community-based event that takes place in the Highland community in Ward 4 in Gastonia. And so as part of that 30-year event, we did some history. And the late Mayor Walker Reed was part of the Highland Festival. He came in and he shared a story with me. And the story was that when Highland Festival first began, it was called Ebony Fest. And at that time, I was really considering doing a Juneteenth festival, the very first one. And I didn't have a name for it. And so I was like, oh my goodness, Mayor Reed, I love that name. I said, can I use that for Juneteenth? And so he said yes. And in June of 2019 was our first Ebony Fest Juneteenth festival. And so there's some history in it locally, but we wanted to celebrate Juneteenth because it is an independent state for so many Americans. I mean, I consider it an American holiday. So for me, it just makes sense to celebrate Juneteenth and the 4th of July. So when we started, it was very small. We had probably less than 500 people. We had about 10, 15 vendors, and we did it at Irwin Center, which is also the home of Highland Festival. And in 2020, we got hit by COVID. So we did a Freedom March. And we walked from a local church here, Friendship Christian Church, to the police department, MLK Memorial, which is right across the street here. And then in 21, we were here. And we've been here ever since. Usually, we pay for fireworks. I pay for fireworks. I pay for the performers to come out. I pay for the DJ. And so this year, what happened was the city had removed in-kind services. So we were incurring a cost of about $15 for our $15,000 for our 2-day festival. And it was really city staffing, like for them to open the bathrooms and for police and for EMS and fire. And all I asked for initially, Destiny, was that they could look at the bill and reduce the cost. And so I never expected, the outcome that we received, which was them accepting it as a city event and making it, the city's Juneteenth festival. So we got more than we asked for. And it has been kind of a whirlwind. I mean, we did all of this in less than a month. We signed our contract. They're going to pay for the fireworks this year. And then next year, we'll have a 1-day festival that will include the parade, the festival, and the fireworks all on June 19th.
Okay, so are they covering things differently than they will going forward?
Yes, so this year is just basic in-kind service costs are covered and the fireworks. Next year, there will be a budget. And so my nonprofit will be so excited because we've really incurred a lot of costs. It takes a lot of time to plan an event of this size. We've grown, like I said, from about 500 people to the estimate is about 3,000. So over the course of 2 days, 3,000 people come between Saturday and whatever day the June 19th falls on. We do 2 days. But next year, we won't have to do that. We'll have access to the parking lots. We'll be able to utilize whatever resources the city has available. We get perks like they post it on the city page. They share it with all the city residents through their kiosk here. So there's a lot of great perks that come with being a city event. And I am overjoyed to have this happen for us and for the whole community, at large. One of the things I say is from Juneteenth to the 4th of July, let freedom ring. And I received that from Dr. Opal Lee, who actually is the grandmother of Juneteenth. She walked to Washington, D.C. so that we could have this most important holiday. So I honor her. I honor the late mayor. I honor our traditions, but I also honor the importance of Juneteenth as America's Independence Day as well.
This year, what's being covered by the city, is it just basically what you would have any normal year, or are you able to expand and do more as the city is making it a city event?
So because we weren't expecting this, we're really keeping it very low key. We have local performers, we have local artists, we have storytellers, everything that we had already planned. The only things that I can say I really added is more marketing. because now that it's a city event, I want to make sure the city of Gastonia is represented. So I went out and I bought banners that represent the city and balloons and all that good stuff, in addition to our sponsors and what we already planned. So I haven't made any major changes this year, but oh boy, do I have great plans for next year. But for this year, we've reached out to the governor. We've reached out to some important businesses. We've reached out to our local city council members, our mayor. We'd love for them to come, since we have a 2-day festival, so it makes it a little hard. And this weekend is Father's Day. So a lot of people are out of town doing different things, but we'll have our parade on Saturday, June 14th. From the staging is at 2, parade starts at 3. Then our festival kicks off here at 2 p.m. We'll have vendors, we'll have food trucks. Then we've got some of our vendors have been with us since 2021, and it's really amazing to see them come back. They're so excited. But this place will be packed out with people. People will bring their lawn chairs. There'll be dancing. We've got Moving Spirits, which is from Charlotte. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they'll be our opening ceremony. And then Thursday night, our closing ceremony will be Drums for Life. They're also from Charlotte. We have Samba Negra, Afro-Latina dancers coming. We've got Chubby, the Charlotte Checkers mascot, Gerald the giraffe. I mean, we've just got something for everybody. We'll have inflatables. And then the real planning for 2026 begins. Oh, and our grand marshal of our parade is Eric Sleepy Floyd, which is an NBA star and a Gastonia native. So we're very excited about that. It starts at the end of Main Street down here, and it goes to South Street right where we are. And then the festival will commence. We'll have, food, fun, entertainment. And then Thursday, June 19th, which is actually the Juneteenth holiday, people can come back from 6 to 10, and we will have the festival. We'll have more entertainment, and then the fireworks is at 9:30.
Speaking to Councilman Littlejohn later. Maybe you can to her support. I'll be hearing about it later.
Yeah, her support was phenomenal. We really had the support of Councilwoman Stepp. We had the support of Councilwoman Littlejohn, and the mayor seemed to be on board. So we were talking in advance of this. I have knocked on every door possible because of that $15,000 bill. So they were probably a little sick of me. But I just wanted them to look at the bill and see if any costs could be defrayed, so we didn't have to pay so much. Because again, we're a staple in this community. We pride ourselves on great people, great place, great promise. And so I'm a part of that, equation. And I wanted to make sure that they understood how important this is, the financial impact for the downtown area and the community impact. And so I think I had some of their, ears already. But when we were able to converse and they could ask me questions and I could explain, why it was a 2-day event so far and what I was asking for, they unanimously voted that this should be a city event. And Councilwoman Littlejohn is our ward councilwoman for it. So she knows about the Highland Festival. She knows about the history. And so she's really championed this. And so I owe her a great honor. I've asked her to speak at Juneteenth. And so maybe you can get an answer for me.
We'll do.
I guess what I'd like to say is how important it is. I think every city, not only should they make it a city event, but they should adopt Juneteenth as a holiday. So right now, one of the biggest reasons we have a 2-day festival is because our county administration, which is over here to my left, they're open on June 19th. And so their cars are there. It's not a state holiday. So we need to call our representatives, and we need to let them know how important it is that it become a state holiday. And so we would have access to this whole thing. Like the 4th of July, everything's closed. You've got opportunities to use the parking lots or whatever you need. And so that's one of the reasons we have a 2-day festival, because we have the access on Saturday that we don't have on June 19th. And so next year, the mayor has already called the county administration building. So regardless of whether it's a state holiday or not, the employees will use another parking lot for that day. We will have permission to have our parade on June 19th. We'll have the festival, and then fireworks will light up the sky. So I just want people to know that America has 2 Independence Days. It's not a made-up holiday. It's a real thing, and it affects real people. And so as a community, if we can honor the 4th of July what's one more day to celebrate? It should bring us all together and help us know how important community and unity are in our society. And so I hope with all the stuff going on in the world that people can come out and celebrate Juneteenth with us. Everyone is welcome. It's free to the public, and I just hope people come and celebrate and help us enjoy Juneteenth.
All right. Perfect. And then this is just for my own background about how much should I say? I can also ask the councilwoman too. How much is being covered? Like what numbers?
So I would say about 20,000. So we had a bill for 15,360. The fireworks are 5,500. That is what the city is covering. So what is that? 21,000, something like that. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's about 21,000 total. But yeah, the city's covering that. We won't have to incur any of those costs. They're paying the fireworks company, so we don't even have to worry about that bill. And it's just now, celebrate, get it done, and then relax.
All right, it's going to be a fantastic event in Gastonia. And then when the city kind of ends up supporting this fully the year after this year, man, I can't wait to see this exponentially grow, just inside the community. So yesterday we had the amazing opportunity to speak about Checkers, who they're actually playing right now, 2-1, beating the Abbotsford Canucks. They are in the second period with about 17 minutes to go as I watch right now. It is on 36.2, by the way. We are, WCNC Charlotte is having this game on our air right now. So if you can find that, 36.2, you'll be able to watch this. We were able to speak to the voice of the Checkers, though, TJ Charlotte, yesterday, a little bit about the preview of this game, which he felt could be pretty physical, but that the weather could have an impact on as well, in a positive way for the Checkers. And it seems to be that way right now. So we'll go to this now, and you can listen in to TJ's perspective of the game that's going on now. We have an amazing guest in town, and we know the Charlotte Checkers are getting ready to start their quest for the Calder Cup Finals. TJ Charlotte is here with me, a broadcasting specialist. He'll be on the call for the foreseeable future for this round of the finals. And I think a lot of folks are excited, man, to have just a playoff atmosphere. Now we're in the finals, obviously, something that we don't normally see in Charlotte or haven't seen in quite some time. But there's a lot happening on the ice. So, TJ, set the stage for us. Starts tomorrow, and the Abbotsford Canucks. What are the big things that stick out to you ahead of tomorrow's game?
I think the first thing that sticks out to me is simply the fact that this is the Checkers' second Calder Cup postseason run that's gone into the Calder Cup Finals in the last 6 years. Yeah. 2 of those years, the Cup was not even awarded due to COVID and things like that. So it just goes to show you that this team, through an affiliation change, new coach comes in, all new players come in, it's just dedicated to winning no matter who has been here in Charlotte. And I think that's the first big takeaway. If you're a fan of the Charlotte Checkers, you're going to get a team that's going to lay it out there every single night for you and be competitive. They've been in the playoffs the last 7 straight years, which means there's always hope to get to this point. So we're really excited. The buzz around this team is amazing, and we're having a lot of fun with this. So hopefully we can come out on top.
Yeah, so games 1 and 2 going to be taking place at the Coliseum. You were talking about some interesting things a little bit earlier before we hit the air, talking about some of the events that are already happening at the Coliseum, how that could change the game. You don't have to delve into it too much if you want to give the opposing side some interesting things to think about, but it will be an interesting setup for folks, especially having that ice underneath some of those events, and then now getting ready, because I think the game is tomorrow for 7 p.m. So what does it look like in terms of getting the Coliseum back in shape for a hockey game after all of these graduation, those type of events that are happening at the Coliseum there?
We have a great crew at the Bowplex. Tony Caddy, who's our head ice technician, makes sure that ice is taken care of as best as he possibly. And there's no divots, there's no ruts, nothing like that. There are graduations, and there's been events going on over the last week or so at the Coliseum. And no matter what, you're going to have a little bit of a struggle because this is Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're playing hockey into June, which we are so thankful and grateful for. But at the end of the day, it is still June in North Carolina. And the same thing could be said if you look at the Stanley Cup Finals, which they're playing tonight in Florida in Sunrise, just outside of Miami. Yeah. They are going to be having some issues too. I mean, it is just, you can only do so much with man-made ice, and you can only fight humidity so much. And of course, we want every single person that we possibly can packing that building. It is a sellout tomorrow night, so there's going to be a lot of bodies. There's going to be a lot of warmth. I'm sure we're going to be taxing that ice plant a little bit to keep the ice in perfect shape, but it's certainly going to be playable. It's just something that both teams are going to have to adapt to. For the non-hockey fans out there listening, I kind of always equate it to playing football in the rain. It's not ideal. It's a little bit sloppy, but it is something that both teams have to deal with. So you got to roll.
Yeah, I think obviously, the Checkers kind of understand, right? So maybe they'll have an advantage here, but I think either team's going to have to, in real time, figure out what the game plan might be, depending on what the ice might look like. So that might just be a small factor. Any other things that I guess stick out to you tomorrow? These teams match up really well, it seems like, right?
Yeah, both of these teams are built from the back end out. So goaltending and defense is where they start for both of these teams. I think the Checkers have a little bit of an edge in terms of offense, particularly with their depth. When you look at Abbotsford, they have some higher scorers in terms of individual numbers here in the postseason than what the Charlotte Checkers have. But after those guys, it kind of falls off the table a little bit. It's a little bit more on average to the rest of the league, whereas the Charlotte Checkers, it seems like they are pretty well level with everybody. The leading points getter on this team only has 10 points. Now the Checkers have only played in 12 games in the postseason, so just shy of a point per game. It's not too shabby here in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, this is a team, the Charlotte Checkers, who are built with depth in mind, and anybody can score, anybody can be the hero, and I would not be surprised if all things go well at the end of this series. We're talking about maybe a guy that right now that I'm sitting here isn't coming to mind. It's one of those things where the hero could truly be anyone. When I look at Abbotsford, they're a team that the Checkers have never played, technically. They came into the league as the Abbotsford Canucks 4 years ago. The last time the Charlotte Checkers played a Utica affiliate would have been 5 years ago. A Vancouver affiliate would have been 5 years ago, the Utica Comets, when they were affiliated. Since then, there's been some shuffling. Now, the Checkers did play the old Abbotsford Heat when they were affiliated with the Calgary Flames at that time, but it was a totally different front office, different players, and you're going back well over a decade, where 90% of the players playing in the game tomorrow were not active in pro hockey at that time. So this is basically the first ever meeting between these two teams, both actually and metaphorically in that way. So I'm curious to see what we're going to see, because the one thing that I've noticed over the 4 years I've been here in the American Hockey League is the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference play such a different style of hockey. And you never really quite know which one's going to come out on top. You can look at the Calder Cup champions and see Hershey last year and the year before, but then it was Chicago the year before that, and then you'd have to go back to the Charlotte Checkers. So 3 out of the last 4 times the Calder Cup has been handed out, it's gone to an Eastern Conference team. So the Checkers are, of course, hoping to continue that trend, as they do like to play a little bit more physical and a little bit faster. But again, going back to that ice, maybe that's kind of a little bit of a neutralizer, slows down some of those quicker feet.
Right. Interesting stuff. So as you alluded to, really there's hero stars all over, right? John Leonard, Trevor Carrick, Zach, obviously the captain for a long time. And a lot of folks are going to be focusing on, right, the guy in the goal, the goalie, basically, right? Because that's going to be a lot of pucks are going to be going his way tomorrow. So what are some of the definitive markers that maybe the Abbotsford Canucks might be looking at to take advantage of come tomorrow night, and maybe throughout the entire length of these finals here? What are some things you think they might be keying on?
If I had to put myself in Manny Malhotra's shoes, the head coach of the Abbotsford Canucks, who, by the way, is a former Charlotte Checker. If I had to put myself in his shoes, I think the number one thing for them is going to be get an offensive attack that puts more than 30 shots on goal against Kaapo Kähkönen. It's something that he has rarely seen since he came over in the trade earlier this season, and he has not seen in the postseason outside of one game. So through the 12 games the Checkers have played, they've only allowed 30-plus shots in one game. Now, the Checkers did get the victory in that game, so it's not quite the ultimate key to winning the victory and getting that victory, but it is one of the things where you can start to wear them down, especially if you can get 30-plus shots in Game 1 1 and then come out and do it again in game 2, you can start to wear down the defense and you can start to wear down the goaltender, because this is going to be a true goaltending battle. When you look at these two teams and what goalies they're trotting out there, whether it's Kaapo Kähkönen for the Charlotte Checkers, who has a 1.75 goals against average, which is the lowest of any goaltender that's still playing, and obviously there's only a couple of those, but it is second lowest of anybody who has played this postseason. Then you look on the other side with Artur Shilovs. He has 5 shutouts here in the playoffs. He's got the highest save percentage at saving just about 93% of the shots that are thrown his way. It's going to be a very difficult game if you're a forward and you're trying to score on the other team. So for the Charlotte Checkers, if I'm them, I'm expecting a heavy shot amount from Abbotsford, whether that's just throwing the puck from wherever they're at. If they're inside the blue line, just throw it on goal. Anything to just force Kähkönen to make a save and to just keep him on his toes and just keep him rattled as best that they possibly can.
Okay.
I think that's going to kind of be one of the keys.
Which is going to be tough because Kähkönen has seen a lot, obviously, from Finland. Man's like a literal wall out there. I mean, nothing goes past him, it seems like. So, as you pointed out, this roster filled with a litany of guys. The defensemen, I think some of their statistics stand out to me. Obviously, they've really helped bolster, the offensive part of the game and everything else that kind of comes with it. For the Checkers, anything to watch out for there? I mean, those guys are great skaters, clearly, and they're all over the ice as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys for the Charlotte Checkers team is the way they're laid out on defense. You've got 6 guys back there. 3 of them are very offensively minded. When you look at Trevor Carrick, who you previously mentioned, who was second on the team in points during the regular season, 5th overall amongst all defensemen in the American Hockey League to end the regular season. And then you have the second-year pro Mike Benning, who's a guy that's been in big stage moments. He won a national championship with Denver just a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Those are guys that love to move the puck. Those are guys that love to fire on goal. But at the same time, you also have your stay-at-home guys who recognize what their job is, and that's to be that true guard in front of the netminder to make sure guys are covered, passing lanes are shut down, you're forcing things to the outside, you're not letting anybody behind you. So, it's a good combination of guys with range, and you have those guys who are more stout, the Miklas Hovorkas of the team, as well as the Matt Kierstead, who's a guy that's been around now for 4 years with the Charlotte Checkers team. He doesn't light up the stat sheet. He's a playmaker in terms of assists, but only had 1 goal during the regular season because he is focused on one thing and one thing only, that's playing defense. And I think when you have that balance, and they can play off each other and have that good harmony, that's what really allows the offensively minded defenseman to jump in on a play and get some points and take those shots and take those risks because they know the guy that they're playing alongside is going to have their back if they vacate their position. And the same thing could be said for the forward groups that are out there. Such an unselfish team. If they see a defenseman step up into the play, somebody is constantly thinking, I've got to get back. We've got to cycle to make sure that we don't allow a hole on our back end for Abbotsford to just shoot right through, and then you end up leaving your goalie, hung out to dry. So it's a very smart, high IQ team, and there's such a good balance of skill players, stout defensemen, speed. It's just so well built.
Well, along with that balance, I think also, right, there seems to be this unmatched synergy with all of these guys. I mean, I know they've played with synergy before, obviously having to go 3 out of 4 years, as you talked about, with that stat being in the playoffs, and then obviously going to a Calder Cup over the last couple of years, a couple of different times as well. They play so well together, and maybe that's the trust that we see on the ice. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's wild about this whole thing is, this team looks so incredibly different now than it did at the start of the year. When you talk about the amount of long-term injuries that have taken guys out of the fray, from Aiden McDonough, who was the leading goal scorer at the point he got hurt in November. Ryan McAllister was top 5 on the team in points when he got hurt for the rest of the year. Mackenzie Entwistle just rejoined the team after being knocked out in November. He played his first game in the last series, and he's got 2 points in 3 games. When you talk about all that change, Plus, you talk about the acquisitions that were made and the swaps that were made at the deadline. Losing Patrick Giles, who was a fan favorite, big-bodied forward, losing him in a trade, but getting back Capo Kakinen. I mean, he played 16 games with the Checkers during the regular season. He was 12-4. He came from a team where he couldn't buy a win. I mean, they were just not as skilled out in front, and it seems like they went out, they found and specifically targeted some of these guys and brought them in. Right. Same thing, C.J. Smith. He was brought over to the team in January after signing from Europe. He was playing over in Europe to start the year, and the Checkers identified him as a guy that formerly played in the American Hockey League, could probably have an impact as a veteran on this team. They bring him in, and he's been a huge piece of this team. I couldn't imagine this team without a guy like that. So when you talk about that next page, because it's not been turnover that you want to see. If you're a losing team and you experience turnover, that's probably because you just don't have it. This has been a team that you think is really set up for success, and then you lose a handful of guys, and you got to plug those holes, and sure enough, they have not missed a beat.
They've done it, and it's so hard to do. And it's really hard to get all those weaknesses out of a team, which they've done really well in a short amount of time. I'm just looking at the American Hockey League stats, and Abbotsford, the Canucks, they've got Carlson, they've got Baines, and they've got Sammy Blaise, maybe, in the top 10 in terms of points. So, I mean, you got a right wing, a left wing, and then our left wing, obviously, they're going to be keyed on, it sounds like, right? Especially the Checkers. Are they going to be focused on these guys? I mean, you can't take away the prowess of the other guys that are be on the ice as well, but that says something to me, right? To have three of those guys in the top 10, that's pretty big.
Yeah, and they're a very potent offense with those three guys, but again, if you can find a way to neutralize them, I don't see the depth on the rest of this team being good enough to support not getting the points, from those players, the three that you just named in particular. Okay. That's the thing where I think the Charlotte Checkers, if you look at the Checkers, I think you would have to go into like the third page on the league stats before you found a Charlotte Checker, not even in the top 20 in scoring in the league. If you neutralize John Leonard, if you neutralize Justin Sordiff, or you neutralize, a Trevor Carrick or a Will Lock.
We have some breaking news from LA Mayor Karen Bass right now talking about the immigration protests right now.
Week, everything was peaceful in Los Angeles. Nothing was happening here. Nothing was going on that warranted the behavior of the federal government over the last few days. We are here today because the raids have caused fear and panic, because They felt empowered that they could shove and cuff a U.S. senator. How could you come to town and say you are rescuing Los Angeles and you don't even know the U.S. senator? We're here today because we are clear that we are a test case, and they want to see just how far federal overreach can go. Can the federal government come in and seize power from a state and from a local jurisdiction? How much will the American people put up with? How much will Californians put up with? How much will Angelenos put up with? How much will people from all of the other 88 cities in our county put up with? And we're here to tell you that we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to solve anything by chasing people at car washes, by intimidating families near schools, or by sending troops into an American city. It breaks my heart to think about a milestone event in a family, such as a graduation from an elementary school, or from a junior high, or from a high school, and that families feel that they cannot go to the graduation, or people in an emergency room worried that maybe they will come in and be detained, or people in homeless shelters. What happened to the goal of violent felons, gang members? What happened to that? I have a hard time believing that the day laborers who each day try to survive by getting a day's work is a threat to our city. So think about all that is going on in the world today, and then ask yourself, why, if all of these troops are deployed here, why are there more military troops in Los Angeles than in Iraq? Just think about that for a minute. So we're here today because we're not going to let anyone divide us. We're here today to show the world that the real America, what the real America is all about, what Los Angeles is all about. And Los Angeles is about diversity, is about embracing the immigrant population, is about celebrating the fact that there are sectors of our economy that frankly would not function if it was not for immigrant labor. So tomorrow across the country there will be demonstrations that are planned, but now these demonstrations we expect to be even larger because of what has happened in our city. But we do call on people over the weekend to demonstrate peacefully, to exercise your First Amendment right, to not play into the hands where it could be used as a pretext to roll out troops in our city. So let me just be clear about the truth of LA. We are a city of almost 4 million people. So the protests, and some that have devolved into violence, understand, have taken place on about 1 square mile of this city that is 500 square miles. So be clear, LA is not under fire all throughout the city. You are talking about a very small part of the city and a very small number of people. The overwhelming majority of people have demonstrated peacefully. And let me at this point introduce our local Congresswoman, Sydney Kamlacher, who is here representing the House along with a number of her colleagues.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank the mayor for your unwavering leadership during these challenging and unprecedented times. Thank you for bringing us here together. I am Sydney Kamlacher-Dove. I am the Congresswoman for the 37th Congressional District. Many of these raids have been taking place in my district, throughout the district. I am here with colleagues from Congress, Representative Takano, Representative Chu, and Representative Torres. Mark Takano, Judy Chu, Norma Torres. So, California has the largest immigration population in this country. We are also the 4th largest economy in the world. There is a relationship between those two data points. California and Los Angeles is also the entertainment epicenter. So it is no wonder that Donald Trump brought his production to California. But it is a production of trauma. This is not about immigration reform. These agents are coming into our cities and they are detaining U.S. citizens. They are detaining legal immigrants, and they are detaining immigrants who are going through the legal process with their status. They are running into apparel stores. They are running onto farms. They are running into diners, and they are snatching our community members, our friends, and our family members. This is not immigration reform. I have to say that. Let me also say, not only is this impacting our communities and our neighbors, it is impacting our businesses and it is impacting this economy. Taxpayers are footing $134 million for these raids to happen because Stephen Miller made an arbitrary number of 3,000 people that he wants rounded up every single day. Agents are not giving identification. They are not showing judicial warrants. They are not inquiring to even see who it is that they are trying to detain. I thought they were looking for folks with criminal records, but it seems like they are looking for anyone they can find. That is a problem. It is also very important. This is why members of Congress are here. What is not being discussed is how this is a decoy for the hundreds of billions of dollars that Donald Trump is taking from us to cut Medicaid. It will close community clinics that are being raided. It will shut down doctors' offices and hospitals that are being raided. He is cutting educational funding for children with disabilities. He is cutting funding for our small businesses. He is cratering this economy with his taxes. And then on top of that, he is costing this city and this state tens of millions of dollars with this economic and social trauma. We are here standing in solidarity. These are members from up and down the state who have come here to say stop. Stop this madness. Stop this economic trauma. And if you are not here working lawfully and not detaining and brutalizing U.S. senators and union leaders, then you need to go immediately. With that, I would like to introduce Senate Pro Tem of the California State Senate, Mike McGuire.
Good evening. I want to take a moment to say thank you so much, Congresswoman, for your advocacy and your fight. I also want to mention Mayor Bass. Mayor Bass' city hand has been guiding the city through some of the most tumultuous times the city and county of Los Angeles has seen in over a century. And I think we owe her a debt of gratitude for her incredible work in standing strong for the most vulnerable. And I want to say thank you so much, Mayor, and we're grateful to partner with you. I'm joined today by several senators, Senator Durazo, Richardson, Smallwood Cuevas, Menjivar, and Perez, and we are incredibly grateful for your work representing the city and county of Los Angeles. You know, it's not lost on us that it's been 60 years 60 years since the National Guard was deployed over a governor's objection. And the last time that this type of deployment happened was to help kids walk to school in a segregated South. Fast forward to 2025, now in Los Angeles, the National Guard has been deployed to separate kids from their parents. America has faced tremendous peril over the last 240 years, and today we are at one of the most dramatic tipping points of our democracy. There is no justification in a democracy for the un-American federal siege of a great American city in this great county. Warrantless arrests, federalizing the National Guard, mobilizing federal troops on California soil, racial profiling of American citizens, detaining law-abiding residents, the lack of due process for detainees, throwing U.S. senators to the ground for speaking freely, and threatening the arrest of American governors. These aren't acts of a normal American president. These are acts of an authoritarian government, candidly acts of a thug. And let me be clear, California will never back down. We will bend to no king, and the people of California will prevail. The harder President Trump comes for the Golden State, the more unified California will be. Californians are always on the side of good, the side of justice, and the people will always win over the power of a few. And I'd like to end it right here with this and talk about our mutual aid system in the state of California. The state of California has the largest and most effective emergency response and law enforcement networks in the United States of America. And I can't be any more clear about what I'm about to say. The state stands ready to meet any and all public safety and emergency response requests from Mayor Bass and the Board of Supervisors for the County of Los Angeles. The State Office of Emergency Services has been and will continue to meet any and all needs for requests of assistance. Candidly, the mayor is working with the State Office of Emergency Services tomorrow for the marches that will be taking place across the city. And you know who knows this? President Trump. He knows that we can take care of our own, and it's time to end this siege and stand down. Otherwise, Californians will continue to stand up for our people. It is now my honor to be able to introduce the Speaker of the California State Assembly, Robert Rivas.
So California, we face one of the most challenging moments in recent memory. And not because our people are divided, but because our democracy is being tested from the very top. The Trump administration's recent actions, unilaterally federalizing and deploying our National Guard, conducting sweeping immigration raids in our neighborhoods, and now forcibly removing a sitting U.S. senator from a Homeland Security meeting. These are not just abuses of power. They are assaults on the rule of law. They are violations of decency. They are acts of desperation from a president who thrives on division, thrives on chaos, and who fears accountability. Now, let me be absolutely clear. Here in California, we are not going to be intimidated. I stand here as the first Speaker of the California State Assembly, born to immigrant farm workers. This is personal. My family came to this country from Mexico, seeking opportunity. Opportunity that they found in the agricultural fields of California. Opportunity that they found in the classrooms of our public schools and in the promise of this state. And that promise still belongs to every single Californian, no matter where they were born or how long they have been here in our state. I was recently reminded that throughout our history, from the internment of Japanese Americans to Proposition 187, to the mass deportations of the 1950s, California has weathered moments when fear was weaponized against our most vulnerable. But in every single case, we rose, we organized, we resisted, and we did it with courage, with community, and without violence. Without violence. And now, in this moment, we must do the same again. And I urge every Californian, do not take Donald Trump's bait. Do not allow his cruelty to spark chaos in our streets, here in Los Angeles and throughout our state. Local leaders, law enforcement, they're working hard to keep us safe. And we must work just as hard to keep the peace. This is a time for unity. It's a time for strength, for love of neighbor, And to every immigrant family living in fear at this moment, know this: you all belong here. You matter, and your state is fighting for you. That's why I'm proud to be here with Mayor Bass. I'm proud to be here with our congressional representatives. Proud to stand here with members of the Senate, and incredibly proud to stand here with so many of my Assembly colleagues. Tina McKinnon, Lisa Calderon, Blanca Pacheco, Rick Zabur, Celeste Rodriguez, Isaac Bryan, Mike Gibson, Avelino Valencia, Almer Suchi, Nick Schultz, Sade Alawari, Jackie Irwin, Jose Solache, Mark Gonzalez. Hope I didn't miss anybody. Oh, I said Zabur. I said Zabur. Oh, Jessica Colosa, Mike Fong. There's a lot of us in the Assembly. They're all here. But I'm proud to stand with everyone here today. And please let history show that in the face of tyranny, California stood its ground. We did not flinch. Thank you all so very much. And I want to invite the next speaker, Representative Ms. Judy Chu.
I'm Congressmember Judy Chu from Los Angeles County's San Gabriel Valley. I am here to stand with Mayor Karen Bass and all the members of the California delegation, as well as the other elected officials, as we express our collective outrage over Donald Trump's attack on Los Angeles and his attacks on our immigrant communities and on all our communities. As we speak, there are U.S. Marines deployed on the streets of Los Angeles. The president has seized control of our California National Guard without the governor's approval and threatened to arrest the governor for political reasons. And just yesterday, we saw Senator Alex Padilla get forcibly removed and violently handcuffed simply for trying to get answers from the Secretary of Homeland Security. This is unprecedented, dangerous, and authoritarian. We will not stand by and allow this to happen in the United States of America. When Trump's immigration enforcement came storming through downtown Los Angeles, sweeping up not just immigrants, but even U.S. citizens, and hauling them away to detention centers, I knew we had to act. I got a call from advocates sick with worry about the fate of those arrested because family members and lawyers could not contact them. They had no way of knowing whether these detainees had food or medicines. So the next morning, Representatives Derek Tran, Gil Cisneros, and I drove straight to Adelanto Detention Facility to exercise our lawful constitutional responsibility of oversight. But when we showed up, ICE actually closed the chain link fences right in front of our eyes and put chains and locks around the fence. They refused to let us in, defying the law that states that Congress has the right of oversight of any DHS facility at any time. And so, what is clear is that ICE believes it's above the law because Trump believes he's above the law. And that's why he sent in those National Guard members without the governor's approval. But we are here to say we stand with our constituents and immigrant communities across this country. We stand with the right of Americans and immigrants to peacefully dissent against the administration and to protest peacefully. We must put an end to Donald Trump's inhumane and disgusting attacks on immigrant communities and on our Constitution. And now I would like to turn the podium over to my colleague, Congressmember Mark Takano.
Thank you, Congresswoman Chu. I'm pleased to be here with my former colleague, now the mayor of Los Angeles, and all of the members from the California delegation to Congress and members of the legislature and the leadership of the legislature to stand here in solidarity with my friends and compadres from Los Angeles. I represent a constituency in Riverside County, the communities of Riverside, Moreno Valley, Paris, and Jurupa Valley, the Inland Empire. And I'm going to tell you, the people of the IE see through the sham being perpetrated by this president. And what sham am I talking about? The sham that there is massive uprisings here in Los Angeles, which the Los Angeles Police Department cannot properly manage, along with the sheriff. The images that distort reality coming out from the television screen, which keep focusing on, there's some incidences of property damage and some attacks on law enforcement, which I and all of us, we condemn. If you break the law, you will be held accountable. But those images distort the impression to the rest of America, and the president is intentionally perpetrating a sham, an expensive one at that. $134 million, as Sidney Kamlager-Dove said, for the deployment of 4,000, actually the federalization of 4,000 guardsmen, another 700 Marines. As of last Monday, I got a briefing from the leader of the National Guard. They have a very narrow mission of defending 3 federal buildings, 50 persons at each of those buildings, relieved by another 150 every 12 hours. That's 300. So about 1,600 of the original 2,000 are not being used. $134 million, another $45 million being spent on this glorifying parade tomorrow in Washington, D.C. of our military assets. That's nearly $200 million that is being, I would say, a very good subject for DOJ to look at, because they're wanting to pursue this disastrous, big, bad, ugly bill, which is going to take away health care from 15 million people. But yet they have enough money to unnecessarily send in military, and legally, by the way, military forces into L.A. I want to address Senator Padilla's the takedown of Senator Padilla as he was trying to simply ask a question of a cabinet secretary who I'm sure is not answering questions, period. They threw him down, handcuffed him. Look, Secretary of Education Linda McMahon crashed my press conference in front of the Department of Education. Nobody took her down and handcuffed her, even though she's the worldwide wrestling leader of all of that. I'm sure that would have been great entertainment. And that's all about, it's entertainment that they're trying to create, distraction from the sham that they're perpetrating. And this is in no way how a U.S. senator should be treated. Finally, let me just say that this is a serious moment of an authoritarian president who wants to normalize the idea that the military is his personal police force that he can use to enforce his policies. I would say to those people who want to protest and rise up, this is a moment for us to be careful and to do so with thoughtfulness, not to sit back. Because if there was a moment when you ask yourself, looking at history, would I have crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge and risked my head being cracked open in the service of a bigger idea of America? That is a question you should be asking yourself now. But realize the sacrifice and the discipline of those freedom marchers who crossed that bridge. They did not distract with violence. They did not nonviolence was their principle. If you want to ask yourself the question, would I have sat in the back of the bus in defiance of unfair laws? This is the time to ask those questions and to also think carefully about the tactics. It is time to use our voices. It is time to put a check on this authoritarianism coming out of Washington. Norma. I want to now recognize and bring up to the podium my colleague from the San Gabriel Valley, Norma Torres. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Mayor Bass, thank you so much for your leadership and your love for the city of Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles has a very special place in my heart because I have spent 17 and a half years here in the 90s and through the mid-2000s serving the community here as a 911 dispatcher, taking your calls when you have an emergency. As a member of the Appropriations Committee, I am demanding full accountability and reimbursement for the local costs incurred, including injuries to local officers and damages caused by the chaos unleashed when the Trump administration recklessly deployed the military and ICE agents into our communities. They are the ones who created this unrest, and they are the ones that need to foot the bill. California, by the way, in 2022, the last year that we have on record, paid over $262 billion to the federal government. It is the federal government that is on welfare from California. During this appropriations week, our committee, we were supposed to take up a bill on Homeland Security. We failed to do that. Why? Because Republicans did not want to be put on notice. I want to direct some of my comments to the Latino community that could be watching at this moment. Esta semana hemos visto un aumento alarmante, inaceptable en las acciones de migración federales y en el abuso del poder, especialmente enfocado aquí en Los Ángeles y comunidades cercanas. ICE está persiguiendo a residentes de California en sus trabajos, en sus casas, en sus calles, todo para cumplir cuotas. Estas son tácticas preocupantes que violan nuestras leyes y los derechos legales de las personas sin cumplir debido proceso. Están arrestando adultos y niños, incluso después de sus casos de la corte, y hasta están quitándoles el estatus legal a inmigrantes que ya lo tenían. Como miembro del Comité de Asignaciones del Congreso, estoy exigiendo que haya responsabilidad total y que el gobierno federal pague todos los costos locales que han causado, incluyendo oficiales heridos y daños materiales por el caos que provocaron cuando la administración de Trump mandó al ejército y a los marines y más agentes de ICE a nuestras comunidades sin justificación. Ellos son los que están provocando esta desorden. Esta semana en el Comité de Asignaciones se suponía que íbamos a tener la oportunidad de pedir cuentas mientras discutimos el presupuesto para seguridad nacional del próximo año. Pero los republicanos de la Cámara cerraron la Junta porque no quieren dar cuentas. Mandar a la Guardia Nacional y a los marines a nuestras calles sin autoridad legal ni coordinación con líderes locales no solo es peligroso, es ilegal y no tiene sentido. Están malgastando dinero y sinceramente dañando la cuarta economía más grande del mundo, que es la base de los Estados Unidos. Cuando hay desorden causada por prácticas abusivas o negligentes, exijo la responsabilidad total y que se paguen los daños y las lesiones causadas a nuestras comunidades locales. Es nuestro deber constitucional asegurar que los fondos federales no se vayan a gastar, abusar o silenciar a comunidades con estos ingresos. Sin embargo, esta administración ha dejado claro lo que quieren: estar dispuestos a violar derechos civiles, enforzarlos en las comunidades latinas y usar agencias federales para crear miedo. No están persiguiendo criminales, están atacando a las personas trabajadoras que son la base de la economía de este país. Tenemos que alzar la voz y exigir transparencia, justicia y responsabilidad. Nuestras comunidades deben participar con protestas pacíficas y también ser testigos de los abusos tomando fotos y videos. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Oh.
McKenna, leader of the LA delegation, Assemblymember.
I now want to invite Assemblymember Tina McKenna to the podium. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Assemblymember Tina McKenna, and I represent the 61st Assembly District, and it is not on fire. Feel free to come and visit the 61st Assembly District adjacent to LA. It's beautiful. I am also the LA County Delegation Chair, and I would like to start out by thanking my Speaker and Pro Tem for coming up and supporting us today. I'd also like to thank our Mayor Karen Bass for her brilliant leadership in leading the city in this last week. I serve as the chair of the LA County Legislative Delegation. My friends, LA is strong, diverse, and resilient. Our resilience is our strength, and we will not be intimidated by anyone threatening our peace. This president and this administration, they not like us. I am so proud of AG Bonta and Governor Newsom for they secured an emergency restraining order yesterday blocking President Trump's takeover of the state's guards. This is a win for America. But a 3-person judge appellate panel will hold the restraining order until June 17th, and then they will make a decision. I am so proud of our governor and our AG. But right now, our court system, and the judges, this is your time. That's right. The judges, we are looking, America is counting on you to follow the law, counting on you to follow the Constitution. And so this is your time. When we look back 10 years ago, 10 years later, 20 years later, we're going to look back at these judges, at our court systems, and we're going to see if it really works. So America is on your shoulders, judges, and we're counting on you to do what you're supposed to do. Also, I'd like to tell a really quick story about 5 nannies today that were walking some babies. They took the babies to the park, and ICE came upon them. They ripped the children away from them, put the children in vans, took the women, got in touch with the parents. One of those women were a U.S. citizen. The only reason why they didn't take them was because of her boss. Now, they would have taken this woman and locked her up, and I don't know when she would have gotten out. But this is what's happening on the streets. This is what's happening on the streets of LA, and nannies are not criminals. So what I have to tell you, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, is to please stop. Stop with the nonsense. Thank you. And next, I'd like to welcome up my co-chair, Senator Maria Elena Durazo.
Buenas tardes. I too want to thank Mayor Bass for her courage and for her leadership. All my colleagues who are here, you could see at the different levels of government, we are definitely all united. I am proud to be the state senator representing this area, exactly where we are today, exactly where the detention center.
All right, counting down, just about 30 minutes left here as we continue to monitor the situation here in LA with the mayor and other delegations, or delegates, I should say, from the county and the state, talking about the upcoming immigration protests that will happen across the nation. Don't forget, we'll be here on WCNC Plus all day tomorrow covering everything for you across the United States. We'll see you at 11 tonight.